All right, everyone, and hello and welcome to today's presentation, Realizing the Value of Integration Building Systems with the Metasys Building Automation System. This is a topic we're really passionate about, and we're equally as excited to have you with us today, and we truly thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us. So before we get started, I wanted to take just a minute to introduce you to today's speakers. We're joined by John McCrae, an HVAC control sales manager for a Building Solutions North America organization, who's responsible for developing and executing controls growth strategies and coaching local market leadership teams in the southern U.S. through their strategic implementations. During his 22 years with the company, John has served in a range of sales and leadership roles, including regional major projects sales manager, regional equipment sales manager, and HVAC branch manager. John is based in Atlanta and has a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering from the Georgia Institute of Technology. Sean Schubert is the Metasys Integrations Product Manager and joined Johnson Controls in 2003. He started his career as a software engineer, helping develop a variety of Metasys products before moving into product management. His current focus is on expanding the integration capabilities of several Johnson Controls products, including Metasys BAS, Simplex Fire Systems, security and video systems from Tyco Security Products, and products from third-party partners. Sean has a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Engineering from the Milwaukee School of Engineering. And lastly, Mark Peterson, a systems team leader, rejoined Johnson Controls in 2017. He started his career at Johnson Controls in 1997, and after 7 years left for a building controls engineering position in higher education. Even though he left Johnson Controls, he remained close to the company and worked for the Johnson Controls region as a consultant for over 13 years on many systems integration projects, new deployments, and testing. He has a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Management from St. Cloud State University. And lastly, my name is Jane Walmsley. I'll be moderating today's discussion. I'm the Global Product Marketing Manager responsible for our building automation system portfolio, including Metasys, and I'm actually joined by Sean today here at our headquarters in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So our agenda for today's presentation is pretty straightforward, but before I quickly review the agenda, I just want to take a minute to level set on really why we're here today in the first place. So at the end of the day, integrations into a BAS allow multiple devices and systems to communicate with each other to achieve key customer outcomes. Some examples include heating or cooling the buildings, so occupants are comfortable, or turning on the lights and increasing airflow when you scan a badge and enter a room, or ensuring the building systems are operating efficiently to achieve greater energy savings. Really, the topic of integration is becoming increasingly important in today's world where smarter building outcomes are expected, and we seek out the data and insights to drive optimal operational efficiency. So with that, now that we're kind of level set, during today's presentation, we're going to first spend some time talking about openness in the context of BAS integration and how Johnson Controls defines BAS openness. Then we'll talk about why you would want to integrate multiple systems, both HVAC and non-HVAC, through a BAS like Metasys at all, and the value that you get by doing so. Then we'll talk through what the Metasys integration capabilities are both now and at our next major release, which will be out later this year. In fact, as an attendee of this webinar, you're going to be among the first to hear exactly what those new features and enhancements are. So we're really excited to share those with you today. And then we'll walk you through a real customer example where these new integrations capabilities are already delivering outcomes for a major university. And then, of course, we'll save the last 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A. So as always, we encourage you to submit your questions at any point during today's presentation through the webinar chat or Q&A panels. And lastly, just so everyone's aware, today's presentation is being recorded, and a copy of the recording and the presentation itself will be made available shortly after the live event. So we certainly encourage you to share those with your colleagues who may not have been able to join us today. So with that, I will turn it over to John.
All right, thanks, Jane. So anytime you're discussing BAS integrations, you really need to discuss openness also. But openness in terms of a BAS can really mean different things to different people. So Johnson Controls has spent a lot of time thinking through what BAS openness really means, and we've defined openness as 4 different categories or pillars. So before we dive into the Metasys integration discussion, we want to spend some time reviewing each of these 4 categories and some considerations for each one. So, and just in general, this is really about what you're trying to achieve with your BAS. So the 4 categories, as we define them, are open procurement, open software tools and support, open protocols, and open APIs, or application programming interfaces. And we're going to do a kind of a quick review for open procurement and open software tools and support. And we're going to spend more time on the open protocol and APIs since they play a much more explicit role in BAS integrations. So let's first talk about open procurement. So to many people, or at least some of you, an open BAS means having some ability to purchase the system from multiple suppliers. And almost universally, the primary motivator here, as you can imagine, is cost control. So having multiple suppliers bidding on projects exerts some competitive pressure, and from an upfront cost perspective in a construction event, this can really help ensure that a BAS cost is kept within budget. So that's really the primary driver here. And another possible secondary benefit of open procurement could be that there might be a wider pool of qualified technicians that can work on the system. So that's a potential advantage. So keeping costs in check is absolutely important for everyone, but there may be some possible complications to this type of open procurement model, especially from an operational perspective long-term, that need to be considered. So Sean, what are some of the other aspects of open procurement that we need to be thinking about?
Sure, John. Being cost-conscious and being able to get competitive pricing do sound like good things for our customers, but I would like to point out a few items to consider. Having HVAC controllers from multiple vendors with different tool sets and inconsistent control applications can cause added complexity to your building. Multiply this by the different building, business, and specialty systems that are provided by multiple vendors, and you can end up with quite a mess from an integrations and maintenance standpoint. Keep in mind, the different systems in most buildings are designed, installed, and tested separately to perform their primary function. They are not often designed, installed, and tested end-to-end to perform integrated functions. So as a result, use cases and outcomes are often missed because they aren't considered at design time, and the multiple vendors aren't necessarily communicating with each other to be able to pull off those use cases properly and efficiently. So later, an integration team has to come in and try to tie in the disparate systems together, and may spend weeks or months trying to achieve these customer outcomes if they even succeed at all. So integrations are hard, we know that, but as I'll show you later, they don't have to be. Most importantly, the end user experience is often too complex with multiple user interfaces to log into and learn, and software tools to understand. So speaking of tools, John, why are open software tools important?
Yeah, good question. So this really all centers around whether your BAS manufacturer or rep is going to make these software tools available to you, and specifically, are they the tools that were used to actually set up the system and program it? Another question is whether they charge you for them, but in terms of whether they even make them available to you, that's something to be considered. Or, because if they don't, you really have to call the BAS manufacturer pretty much every time you have to make even minor changes. So having the right software tools can be very important for customers that want to do at least some of their own work in-house. And this might not be like a full-blown construction project. And more commonly, I would say it's adding a VAV box or two, or replacing a controller, or that kind of thing. And being able to be self-sufficient in that case is really desirable for some owners. So, and then beyond the tools themselves, obviously, if you're going to utilize the tools well, having access to factory training and support is really critical to be able to get comfortable with using the tools without really having issues. So, Sean, what else would you say we need to consider in this area?
John, you're right. Having access to those open tools is important across the entire life cycle of a building. Just be aware that the possible result could have too many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, especially if they aren't receiving the same training. This can lead to inconsistencies with naming conventions and control strategies across the building or campus. which can make the system more difficult to understand and more costly to maintain. So we've covered the open procurement and tools. John, how do we start to integrate these systems in the first place?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. So open protocols would probably be the first topic there on the next slide that we'd want to talk about. So I think just about everybody on the call would agree that in order to be considered open, any BAS today is really going to need to be built around one or more of the common open protocols. And if you think about how we got to this point, just to rewind the clock a bit, if you go back 30 years or so, in the early days of DDC, just about every manufacturer started off with their own proprietary protocol. And I really like the analogy we used actually on a previous webinar, where if you were building a house, can you imagine having lumber that had inconsistent dimensions, pipe diameters that were not consistent from inside the house to outside, maybe use different units, and how electrical components might not be UL listed? You could build the house, but it would really potentially get very complicated. So from a BAS perspective, after years of having proprietary protocols, eventually it became clear that we needed to standardize in order to allow different systems to easily communicate. So as a result, we got some open protocols, and a number of these were developed different ways, but BACnet, LAN, and Modbus are probably the most common. They're just designed to allow devices to communicate over standard universal languages, which was a huge improvement. So one thing that you need to be aware of beyond just speaking these protocols, different manufacturers have different levels of compliance, and it's important to protect yourself and write specs that require proof of compliance. So BACnet, I'm going to use as an example because it's, I would say, the most common protocol that's being specified today. There's a great resource available to you called BTL, or BACnet Testing Laboratories. And this is an independent body that manufacturers basically submit their equipment, their gear to, and it's tested to prove that it complies with different levels of BACnet. So we would highly recommend that you leverage BTL to specify your systems and make sure that you're comparing apples to apples when you're looking for BACnet compliant BAS devices. And other protocols really have similar verification programs. But so Sean, we've covered the compliance with the protocol aspect of it. Is that the end of the story, or what else do we need to think about?
It's important to realize that these organizations provide that compliance and how important that is to ensure interoperability between our devices and systems that we manufacture. But BTL compliance doesn't ensure usability. So the way I describe this is that anyone can develop or use an open protocol stack like BACnet and have it meet all the compliance standards and check the box, so to speak, to claim that they support BACnet. But in my experience, it is all about how the manufacturer implemented their application layer that determines if they have a good, usable BACnet solution or a potentially bad BACnet solution that is difficult to use. Manufacturers of devices and systems can choose what data to expose over that open protocol like BACnet, how much data to expose, and how that data is organized. And these upfront design decisions can have a big impact on how easy or difficult their BACnet compliant device is to work with and install. This can mean the difference between minutes of time to integrate or days. We at Johnson Controls have focused on providing usable BACnet solutions. But there are other ways that we can integrate with other building systems, right, John?
Yeah, absolutely. So another way is with APIs. So if we go to the next slide, APIs, I would say, are probably not as familiar and as well understood by most people compared to open protocols, Sean. So how about explaining what an API really is in general?
Sure, no problem. So unlike open protocols that usually center around connectivity of the raw data points, a good open API can provide easier access to processed, actionable information and more complex data types. This allows for a much deeper level of integration than is usually possible with an open protocol. An open API allows internal and external development teams a fast and consistent way to add features and solutions to a product, such as our building automation system. A manufacturer, when they develop a system like as complex as a BAS, we focus on providing features that meet the majority of our customers' needs. But in many specialty circumstances, another view of the data is desired. Maybe such as a patient app in a hospital, or the ability to create dashboards and utilization reports that go along with certain integrations that we on the Metasys side don't have the time and budget to be able to add all of these specialty systems and integrations. So providing an API allows us to expand in an easier way our product portfolio. Connecting systems and communicating that data is only the beginning, because visualizing the data is where the value is actually realized.
Yeah, hey, Sean, this makes me think of a good example of where maybe APIs would be useful. I'm thinking about an integration we've done with flight information systems in airports, and even if you're not an airport owner, this might get your wheels turning in terms of what's possible. But so what we've done, and this has been a custom integration in the past, where we've tied into what the gate usage was in an airport. And I don't know, most people on the phone have probably been walking through an airport at times and seeing gates that are not being used, yet the lights are on, the monitors are playing CNN, and signage is all lit up, and probably the HVAC system is in fully occupied mode. So what we can do with this is utilize that data to turn off all of those electrical consuming devices and just to go into some sort of slight setback for that gate. And if there's a last minute gate change, Metasys knows it automatically because it's all integrated, and it turns everything back on as soon as that gate is going to be used. So an API would really make that kind of an integration a lot simpler and non-custom. All right, so Sean, now that we've talked about both open protocols and open APIs, I want to ask, if I'm a building owner, let's talk about the importance of each in selecting a BAS. So I would say protocols to me are kind of a prerequisite. It's almost an automatic, yes, that's important. But how important are APIs and why?
Let me give you a couple examples with each. So if two or more system manufacturers support the same open protocol, chances are those systems can be integrated on day one without too much effort. There are many open protocols today, and many are unique to the specific domains such as HVAC, lighting, security, and fire. And a BAS that supports multiple protocols has a better chance for accepting those integrations. So flipping over to the world of information and data exchange, APIs are trending and becoming the new standard way of communicating between things and the internet. So if two or more system manufacturers provide an API that is unique to their own systems, chances are that development work will need to be done by one or more of these systems to integrate them. This work would need to be completed prior to installing the job, or the integration will be delayed. So to mitigate this, system providers work tirelessly to build up their portfolio of integrations to other systems' APIs. Or key partnerships and bundled offerings are formed to reduce this type of burden. The bottom line is to ensure flexibility with integrations, not knowing what systems and vendors you may encounter in a building. You cannot depend solely on open protocols or solely on open APIs. The best approach will need to leverage both.
Great.
So
all right.
Now that we go ahead, John.
Yeah. So, Sean, yeah, I know you've explained, kind of what we're after here, which is we're looking for energy savings, operational efficiency gains, or both, as we look at these integrations. And there's tons of opportunity out there, but we want to run through some examples of cases where things haven't gone so smoothly, and talk about how they could have been avoided. So y'all can make sure that you plan around it. And really these are planning related problems that can occur. So if we can move on to that next slide there. Sean, why don't you go through this one here? Yep.
Yeah, John. First, now that we better understand how these building systems and domains integrate and share data, let's talk about what we can do with this data and the value that comes from integrating these systems in the first place. And outcomes, you know, when we try to understand and organize outcomes that our customers want to achieve, there's ways to organize them by the person experiencing those outcomes. So we know that there are many outcomes that can be experienced by the occupants of the building that, for instance, keep the occupants feeling comfortable, safe, and secure. These types of outcomes, even increased productivity, are often thought of as soft benefits or soft cost savings by building owners and facility managers because these things are difficult to measure. When it comes down to deciding whether or not to invest in integrations in the first place, these decision makers need more of the hard benefits or measurable cost savings that speak to the return on investment. So this slide that you're looking at here is more focused on these hard cost savings outcomes, such as labor savings that come from faster and easier installs and improved system performance and reliability that come from thoughtful integrations that are well designed and well planned. Capital equipment cost saving opportunities exist from being able to consolidate sensory capabilities and duplicate or redundant devices across the different building systems. Energy savings from automating the systems based on dynamic occupancy information instead of using static schedules, or maybe your system is just running 24/7. And then some increased facility awareness for all systems coming into one single platform, or a user interface that provides the facility manager with actionable information as opposed to just more data to analyze. A theme coming from our building-wide system integrations team that provides integration services for complex projects can be stated as increased device connectivity and adoption of integrated technology systems is helping buildings realize greater functionality and efficiency and better supporting the needs of a mobile workforce. This points to the growing trend for smarter buildings and the expectations of converged technologies by our customers. So starting the conversation with outcomes like these makes it easier to point out the value that these integrations can provide, but it does require committing to the necessary investment. The best approach considers these integrations as early as possible in the planning and design phase of a building life cycle, which is what our building-wide system integrations team helps with today. But there are always likely to be costly pitfalls along the way, and John, you have these examples that we can learn from.
Yeah, great. So if we take a look at this first example here, this is a healthcare customer, and the story here is essentially that the IT department within this customer, despite sort of what I guess probably some good planning overall on the project, but the IT department went out and contracted to purchase a wireless system, a wireless LAN that was about $150,000 lower than the others. And they did this kind of on their own. And what ended up happening is the real-time location services, which were important to the customer to be able to track patients and clinicians as they were around the hospital, ended up not working well with this LAN, this wireless system. So they ended up having to purchase a middleware package that was another $250,000 in order to kind of aggregate the data and make it work. And so they were able to, with that, successfully make the RTLS system function. But one of the key outcomes they also wanted was the nurse call app, the nurse rounding app that ended up not working because of this. It was supposed to log the nurses entering rooms and the times they visited patients and that kind of thing automatically. And it just simply didn't work at the end of the day. So because they didn't plan and coordinate and test, they ended up with additional costs of about $500,000. So if we move on to the next one, this is commercial real estate related. And what this is after the completion of a project, an owner decided kind of after the fact that they wanted to use the garage level occupancy to control lighting and HVAC, and it turned out to be a lot more complicated because they hadn't specified the right things to make sure that systems could tie together. So that ended up costing them about $165,000. And then finally, this is a K through 12 example here, and this is fairly common where you'd have another BAS system that needed to be tied in to a newer BAS, and unfortunately the specs weren't written in such a way that they called for that, and they also didn't call out a backnet lighting integration. So there were some surprises at the end of the job that made it very difficult to do all that. So to get the outcome that the owner was looking for, they had to spend an extra $110,000. So Sean, all of these examples show the importance of planning and specifying. Really, all these issues were avoidable. So to me, the takeaway here and our recommendation is that you find a partner and partner with a company that has experience in executing this type of work, and that can act in sort of a design assist capacity with your consulting engineering team. And the key is to identify what energy and operational outcomes are most valuable to your organization, and do it at a really early stage in the project. And by the way, JCI has a great process to help you navigate through these decisions, the cost-benefit analysis of different integrations and that sort of thing, so we can guide you and help your team through the practical implementation aspect of what it takes to accomplish all of it and make it all work on day one. So let's say you've identified some integrations that will produce some valuable outcomes to your organization. Now you need a platform for that integration, right, Sean?
Absolutely. Thanks, John. I hope we've made it clear so far that understanding the outcomes and developing that plan and design for integrating the various systems in a building is great. We need that. But you also need the right integration platform and tools to get the job done well. So we think that our flagship building automation system, Metasys, is the right platform for this job. So we're now going to get into a more visual and fun section of this presentation, starting with describing the current and future integration capabilities with Metasys. When I describe today's integration capabilities in Metasys, I point to our integrations workhorse called our network engine that's shown here. This is a supervisory controller in the Metasys architecture that is responsible for integrating networks of building control devices and systems. The main method for integrating is through the protocols listed at the left. So as John described earlier, with the history of open protocols, device manufacturers often choose to use a proprietary protocol for their device communication networks when they start out. And in earlier releases of Metasys, or early revisions of Metasys, we started with proprietary protocols that we called N1 and N2. We had even started an N2 open program where other vendors could use our N2 protocol, and that allowed us to communicate with one another. This was successful until BACnet started becoming the popular industry standard open protocol. So in the early 2000s or so, we transitioned our entire Metasys controller line to support BACnet as our frontline protocol. So we've been supporting open BACnet for 15 to 18 years now. For flexibility, we of course still offer the other several open protocols so that we can adapt to what our customers require. We also have a special category of integrations listed there as VND integrations, or short for vendor integration. And this is an integrations platform used internally by our 2 global systems integration services team, who can quickly turn around and develop custom integrations for specific customer needs that our installation and operations teams encounter. So using this platform, they have provided open protocols such as Modbus, MBus, and KNX that are now offered as standard with Metasys. But these teams continue to help Metasys pull systems together through device drivers. The teams have accumulated a library of drivers for over 1,600 devices across 800 different vendors. And this gives us the added flexibility we need to meet specific customer needs. And without diving too deep, I just wanted to show a sample Metasys network. The network engines I just described can support multiple protocols simultaneously, which again provides that added install flexibility and cost savings that we look for. As this diagram shows, supporting open protocols allows multiple third-party connectivity options, whether we need to use LAN, Modbus, BACnet, or N2, and we continue to support and even expand our open protocol offerings. For example, we released a new line of BACnet IP field controllers that we continue to enhance to maximize the benefits of a converged IP network. So once these devices are connected and the data is flowing into Metasys, we can incorporate that data using a wide variety of Metasys features, some of which are listed here. For example, the custom programming logic allows us to bring use cases to life. For example, scanning your badge when you enter your building in the morning can trigger the lights in your office to turn on and the HVAC temperature and airflow to adjust, and activate plug loads such as a coffee maker or desk lamp to prepare for your arrival. Another Metasys feature is our beautiful graphics and dashboards in Metasys that can display information from all building systems in one place. So the facility management team doesn't have to log into multiple systems to understand the health and status of their building systems. At Metasys Release 9, our graphics viewer added the support for layers to help organize the data and the display of the data coming from multiple building systems. So if you want to focus your view to the fire system, you can do so. The facility team can use the Metasys Schedules feature as the master schedule for all building systems, eliminating the hassle of maintaining separate schedules in multiple systems. And our alarm manager in Metasys provides a convenient view of all alarms and events from all building systems coming into one sortable and filterable viewer. Makes alarm management very easy. And all of these Metasys features were developed based on our customers' feedback, and we feel we are solving our customers' biggest pain points regarding viewing data from integrated systems. Facility teams don't want to see more data. They need more actionable information. Well, these are a few of the Metasys features accessible through the Metasys UI. John, can you just describe the intuitive and differentiating usability of our Metasys UI?
Yeah, Sean. So yeah, I want to highlight one particular aspect of the user interface that I think it really makes it an ideal platform for integrations because of this. So that's space-based navigation. And that's where basically everything is centered around the rooms in each of your buildings. And all aspects of the Metasys UI are now built around spaces. So instead of what traditionally is done where you have to navigate network engine by network engine and kind of have some knowledge of what equipment is connected to each engine. Instead, you basically just have to know the floor plan of the building. And virtually every one of the facility team and a particular owner is going to know the floor plan of the building, at least mostly. And even if you just know the room number, you can instantly search for that and pull up that space, and then you know what equipment is serving that space, and you can see all of those parameters related to that equipment right away. So this is very valuable, at least just from an HVAC perspective, in allowing your facility staff to be more productive and use the BAS with less training. But when you add integrations to the mix, this is it's a multiplier in terms of the productivity gain. So as we kind of talked about, when you integrate things like lighting or card access or video, fire alarm, it becomes it becomes objects within Metasys, and it's easy for us to program things around that, and it becomes part of the space-based navigation. It can be right on the graphic the same way. So your teams can access it from their mobile devices anywhere on campus, and they can see all the integrated systems in addition to the HVAC. So If you don't have the Metasys UI, I would encourage you to talk with your local team, the JCI team, and find out what it would take to upgrade your system, because it's something that can really have a great payback in productivity. So, Sean, I really am excited about this next slide and telling everybody about what's coming at the next release of Metasys in terms of integrations.
Yep, very good. I mean, on these two next slides, we are going to introduce you to the new and exciting integration capabilities coming at our next major Metasys release. We tackled 3 big system integrations, including our own Simplex Fire system, access control and video management systems from our Tyco security products, and smart lighting systems from a few key lighting system providers. And people often ask me why I would recommend integrating these systems into Metasys, especially fire. The fire system is a critical life safety system that is highly regulated and I get it, therefore scary to touch by facility managers or security officers. But the fact that the fire system is such a critical system in a building is exactly why I recommend listening to what that system is telling us. So by incorporating the data from the fire system into Metasys, we gain several valuable benefits. Let me just take a minute to describe a few of these. Better representation of the mapped fire system data in Metasys can make these fire points easier to understand by the facility manager, so that they can see what's going on with their fire panel, how many alarms, and if there's a fire alarm, I think everybody in the building probably is aware of it. But the other types of data that we get from the fire panel includes troubles and supervisories that indicate that there could be some maintenance required to the fire system. Metasys could also serve as a secondary fire notification system that can alert more people in the unlikely event of a fire. Metasys UI, as John and I described, provides that rich, detailed view of all system components, including the fire pull stations and smoke detectors, and perhaps the exact location or the origin of the fire alarm on, say, a building and floor plan. Integrating with a Simplex Fire system also allows Metasys to automate certain building conditions when it's triggered by a fire event. Maybe it's smoke control applications or turning the lights on in the right locations in the building. With faster and easier integration, a typical system integration of a fire system would normally take several days. And with the enhancements to our Metasys tool set, we can now get this down to a few hours by the system integrator. So it's a huge time saving of a complex fire control system that now takes considerably less time to integrate. Let me move on a little bit and give some time to the access control and video and lighting as well. So the access control information includes, badge scans. We can tell if someone's trying to get into the building and having trouble because their badge is being denied. We can bring this information into Metasys so that the facility team can offer their assistance. Knowing when doors are locked or unlocked or opened or closed, again, from a floor plan of a building that can quickly and easily tell us that information. Maybe a door's been propped open too long and is the cause of a cool, people are complaining in the area of a building about cold temperatures, and we find out that the door has been propped open. Well, we'll be able to see that in Metasys. Video cameras are getting so smart now in a building. They can provide more data than just a live video stream that we watch on a monitor. These video cameras are providing analytics that can determine some things like motion detected in a specific direction, crowds forming. We can determine facial recognition and counting people in a building, license plate recognition, these types of things that video can provide us. And these can all be used as triggers into Metasys. Lighting systems are getting smarter, and they're more than just light bulbs these days. With occupancy sensors and ambient light conditions, we can determine the power consumption of our lighting systems all through Metasys. So I just want to reiterate These integrations are offered standard at the next Metasys release. The enhancement of our installation toolset minimizes that cost to perform the integration, making it easier for our customers to achieve all those valuable outcomes we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, Sean, just to interject, if I were a customer and I'd looked at integrations like this in the past, I would definitely want to revisit it because the cost of the integration has probably come down. And, let's face it, it's really a cost-benefit analysis whenever we look at any of these. So I would highly encourage anyone on the phone who sees value in some of these to explore the cost, and let's figure out if it makes sense for you.
Yep, good point. But you know what? We aren't done yet. Another feature that has me especially excited is this introduction of our new Metasys REST-based API. As we described open APIs earlier, the Metasys API provides us with a programmatic way to access the spaces and equipment information organized in Metasys. Metasys has the gold mine and a wealth of knowledge, and now we make it easier for others to access that data. And I'm looking forward to this API unlocking new and exciting ways to expand our product portfolio and working closer with specific vendors to develop those deeper integrations so we can serve our joint customers better together. So as an example of this is a two-way communication with this telehealth patient control app that was enabled thanks to APIs. Through Metasys, Johnson Controls and Telehealth can now offer a smart patient room solution for our healthcare customers. And this is just the beginning. I am excited to see where this Metasys API takes us and the world's problems we can solve. So now that we talked about these great benefits and opportunities through integrations, we want to actually show you an example of what's possible. The scenario we are showing today is authorized entry in the context of a hospital operating room. So imagine you are responsible for prepping the operating room for surgery. So you scan your badge at the badge reader. And the badge reader and access control panel verify you are authorized to enter the room and the door is unlocked. As the door opens, you notice the lights are automated to turn on. The airflow ramps up to provide sufficient air circulation and changeover to make that space comfortable for surgery. This is a simple example of how Metasys can automate different building systems for this specific use case. Taking a peek behind the scenes of what made this possible. And of course, it is the integration of different building systems. Metasys receives the trigger from the badge access event and automates the lighting and HVAC controls accordingly. So let's see what we see from the Metasys UI. We'd be able to see that the operating room is occupied and get instant status updates and real-time views of the operating room. So facility technicians can respond to circumstances immediately. Same type of information from a floor plan. We can quickly determine which of our many operating rooms or patient rooms or laboratories in the hospital are occupied and which ones are controlling to specific set points or which are in energy saving modes, things like that. I guess the end result is that medical professionals can focus on their primary job of helping patients and not worry about the lights and temperature in the room. Metasys and the integrations of our systems and of our partners' systems are taking care of them just fine.
All right. So I'm very excited to bring on Mark Peterson, who's one of our systems team leaders who actually makes all this happen in the field. And Mark's going to share with us a real life example of a major customer who's worked with us to achieve some really great outcomes with integrations. So I'll turn it over to you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, like you said, I've had the opportunity to work at a higher education university where Johnson Controls has been doing many of these integrations to Metasys for several years. And back in 2004, they standardized on Metasys as their integration platform. And since we've been helping them connect many non-Johnson Controls branded systems to Metasys, and it's turned out to be a very scalable enterprise level integration platform for them. So, we've been hearing today a lot about integration, and over again, the questions we keep asking is why integrate and why connect systems together? I can't stress enough how important it is to answer these questions to serve as an outline for what you plan to accomplish when connecting building systems together. So when working with the university, we asked those questions, and at the time, we were only talking about connecting different HVAC systems to Metasys. So when we asked them, why do you want to integrate? They told us 3 specific reasons to do this. Number 1, centralized alarm management. They had 5 or 6 different screens that they had to go check alarms on. They wanted to get all that down to one single pane of glass. Scheduling from a common platform. They were having to update schedules on 5 or 6 different systems, and people had to be trained, and there was quirks with different systems. They wanted all that scheduling done from one monitor too. And then also they wanted all of their HVAC trend data consolidated. So since Johnson Controls has always been good at trending, naturally everybody wanted to use Metasys for trend data retrieval. So by connecting, all these non-JCI branded systems to Metasys, these integrations allowed them to get down to that single screen for alarming, scheduling, and trending. Now, what always happens after you meet your initial goals from a project, it seems like the leadership pushes you to set higher reaching goals. So next, building on those successes we had with alarm management, scheduling, and trending, we were able to expand to add even more systems into Metasys. And for example, as Sean and John spoke about a few slides back, we now have the ability to integrate simplex fire alarm systems. In fact, just recently we completed a simplex fire panel integration as part of a 10.0 alpha test, and believe it or not, the purpose wasn't even to send fire alarms to Metasys, but rather they wanted a tool to help their fire alarm testers as they walked around the building doing testing fire devices. So after the integration, they no longer always need 2 people to test. Historically they would have 1 person at the panel and then 1 person in the field. And so now today, that one tester can walk around with his tablet or smartphone and see exactly what's happening on the fire panel through Metasys. So that's been really cool. So we've only done that in 1 building, but it was a large high-rise, and this is a new feature coming out at release 10, and because it was so quick and simple, about a day of prep time and about a day of programming, the university is looking at doing this in many more buildings as soon as 10.0 is released officially. So the second thing they were able to do, now that Metasys was able to do all the scheduling for them, was to integrate their classroom or their campus classroom scheduling software into Metasys. So now any ad hoc schedule changes made to the classroom schedules, which is on a completely different system, automatically will write exceptions into the Metasys system to pre-start or post-op HVAC controls down to the individual room level for more than 700 classrooms and conference rooms on campus. So that's really been a win by integrating classroom scheduling. And finally, with all that HVAC trend data stored in a single database, they decided to integrate an entire network of Modbus utility meters. So now they can combine the use of utility meter data and HVAC data into meaningful fault detection and analytics. FDD has become their next big goal. Much of that low-hanging fruit has already been picked, and so now we're helping them reach even higher by using the power of fault detection to target operational and energy waste. So for those of you who don't know, FDD stands for Fault Detection and Diagnostics. And what it is it's a set of rules or queries that you can run against the trend data to produce an actionable list of issues. And I like to say that it's very Star Trek-esque. You can basically say, computer, give me a list of all the VAVs in the building where the dampers and reheat valves were at 100% open for 2 hours, for more than 2 hours last week. And within seconds, Metasys can respond with a list, and you're off to work with a targeted list of issues. So that's where we're at today with about 26 different buildings on campus, and we're adding more and more to that every day. So to wrap up, the point I want to make is that the goal with any of these integrations, or is to set goals for any of these integrations. And if you see a benefit of combining data for 2 or more systems into one, Metasys can do a great job at achieving that goal and allow you to expand on those goals once you see it working for you. It's been a great success story working with the university and other customers, and we're really seeing firsthand how one integration has led to more integrations, and eventually how all of these have really helped the customer achieve success.
Great, thank you, Mark. That was really great information, and it's great to see some early successes of where these integrations are driving key customer outcomes even before they're officially available. So real quick, because I want to make sure we leave at least 5 minutes for some questions here at the end. Just if we leave you with 3 or 4 thoughts coming out of today's webinar, first and foremost, I think we're all pretty familiar with openness in the context of protocols. But moving forward, you're going to start factoring in open APIs into your BAS decision making. Look for a BAS provider that's considering or providing open APIs, and kind of just what Mark talked us through here. Integrating multiple systems through a BAS does drive outcomes. Looking at efficiency gains and cost savings, and really, what John was saying is that sometimes there's a cost of not planning for integrations, where your installations and your BAS planning ends up being more expensive than it needs to be because you didn't factor in integrating multiple systems through your BAS. And then, of course, what Sean teased out and actually literally simulated for you is that the next major Metasys release provides these integrations capabilities to deliver those critical outcomes that Mark and John and Sean all talked through. So again, this presentation has been recorded, so we will make sure to make a copy of it available to you shortly after the live event. We got a couple of questions coming in, which I'll get to in just a second, but go ahead and continue to submit your questions through the next couple of minutes here. Even if we don't have time to answer them live, we'll make sure that we answer them in a follow-up communication to you. And John did a really nice job of speaking to this earlier, but really, when you're integrating through a BAS, you really need to make sure you're working with a partner or a provider that can help you through that to meet your specific needs and the outcomes you're trying to achieve. So really, we encourage you to start that integration conversation with your Johnson Controls representative using the link here that we have on the screen. And again, we'll share this with you. There's a real easy contact us form at the top of the page that you can go ahead and submit a form, and we'll make sure that one of our integrations experts gets in touch with you. So with that, I am going to start going through the questions here. So, I think a lot of people are probably wondering this, and I'll just go ahead and answer this off the bat. We mentioned the next major Metasys release and when that's going to be available. That's going to be available before the end of the calendar year. So make sure that you stay in the loop, visiting that page, that link that I just shared with you, so that you are the first to know of when that release is announced and made available. So, Sean, maybe this is a question for you. Is there or will there be a training on how to install the Metasys APIs?
With any open API, it's very important that we provide usable documentation and training. And I've seen the documentation. I mean, I have an engineering background, but it is, in my experience, very usable. I don't know how much training we actually need to put behind it, because I think the documentation and the code samples and code examples that we're going to provide, having that documentation and tool set is primarily what you need to get started. If we look at bigger companies like Google and Apple with their phone platforms and the APIs that they've provided to make anyone capable of building smartphone apps, that's kind of where we want to get. It doesn't take any advanced training classes to go use. You can pick up the API documentation and the samples that are provided and just go to town.
Great, thanks. And does Metasys support the DALI protocol?
Metasys doesn't officially support, not as a standard, the DALI protocol, which I know is a very common open protocol for lighting. So no, DALI wasn't included in the list. What we've been finding is that, at least with the modern lighting companies who provide APIs as well, we never, up to this point, have given DALI its due. So we've always considered it, but I'm thinking that we may end up, focusing more of our attention on the open API aspect of integrating lighting systems.
Great, thank you. Can Metasys integrate with third-party work order systems?
We do have partnerships with certain work order management companies that our field organization already leverages for specific customers. So, for those specific work order management system providers, definitely work with your Johnson Controls representatives who should have access to those vendors. But the short answer is yes, we do tie in through either the open protocols or the open APIs, like I mentioned.
Great. And is Metasys a completely web-based system?
Metasys is a more of an on-prem solution, in fact. We do have web offerings, which are really products outside of the current Metasys program at this point, but Metasys is primarily, Metasys lives on different control engines, different field controllers, and a server platform that ties everything together. And that solution has traditionally been on-prem just because of all of the complexity about heat exchange in a building and the tight control loops that have to occur. So having that on-prem connection and communication is vital. But like I said, we do have other offerings that are web-based.
Great, thank you, Sean. And I know we're just a few seconds away here from the top of the hour, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you to Sean and to John and to Mark for walking us through this great content. Again, I encourage everyone who joined us today to visit the link posted on the screen. I realize we didn't have a time to address all of your questions that we got, but we'll make sure we do that in a follow-up communication. And once again, thank you so much. Looking forward to sharing more about the upcoming Metasys release with you in the next couple